Hey, everybody. My name is Megan, and I am your host of the Dysfunctional podcast. This is episode number 3. You can always follow me on Instagram as well at Dysfunctional Megan. Uh, I am today going to talk about a touchy subject, which might not sit well for some of you. It's a personal story to me, and it is something I'd like to share because it may help somebody else. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I want to share my story. I want to share it because I watched the show, not because I watched the show Made, so this is not where the sentence was supposed to go. But I did watch the Netflix series Made, MAID, Made. So she's someone who was in a domestic abuse relationship and left, and I don't want to give anything away. There's only 10 episodes. Just watch it. I will say something though, so maybe plug your ears. No physical abuse happened. And she was making excuses during the series that she's not a real domestic abuse survivor or domestic violence survivor in any way because he never hit her. He came close to it, but he never did. And I think that's really important to understand that what I want everyone to know is domestic violence is tons and tons of levels. Manipulation, verbal, physical, mental, shaming. There's a lot of ways that you can be in an unsafe environment. So there is a signal that people use. I saw someone post on their Instagram that a woman was saved in a car. She put her hand up, tucked her thumb in, and made the fist. So tucking your thumb in and making the fist to let the person in the car next to her know that she's in an unsafe environment. The guy said that he just happened to see it on TikTok one day. He called local authorities, got her, and found out that she was with a boyfriend that was taken from her home. She hadn't been home in 2 days, and the family was starting to get worried. And so right there, she made the gesture that she was in an unsafe environment. Keeping in mind that unsafe is your level of unsafe, or not so much like, well, it's until you're hit that you feel like I'm saying he because that's who I dated. But like he's not gonna, he didn't kill you. He didn't almost kill you. He didn't do this. It's like it doesn't need to be that way. It could be a moment that made you feel so scared, so uncomfortable. It made you feel unsafe. Lots of levels to that. Lots of levels to that. So make sure you are listening to your friends, hearing them, seeing the signs for maybe them asking for help, or maybe the signs that they're not in something so safe. I know the best thing you can do is letting them know you're there for them. I know the more people told me that I was not in a good relationship and that he was never going to change and I was going to die before I got out, I just shut those people out of my life during that time because they didn't understand. Right? That's what I thought at the time because I was in that. So the movie it brought back things for me that triggered a little more, like made my stomach kind of turn a little bit watching it. Then this was probably a month ago, a ex NFL player who took his girlfriend and went into her apartment. I have to be honest that I didn't watch the video, just read the caption and read the story because I can't watch things like that. It especially if they're real. It brings me back, and I go into have nightmares for a couple days. I feel a little more unsafe, on edge, just a little PTSD from it. So I tend to avoid certain videos or stories. But I'm very educated on them. So I'm not saying that I avoid them and just try to be like, this never happens in the world. It's definitely not that. So it was a girl getting thrown around as her baby sat on the couch. And um, it made me think that this is so common on so many levels, especially now with social media, that people try to make it seem like their life is so amazing and like, oh my gosh, I'm skinny and I look good because I work out, when maybe that person has an eating disorder. Or, oh my God, my husband and I, or my boyfriend and I, or my girlfriend and I, whatever, however you want to, whatever the situation is, are so in love. He just bought me this, or she just bought me that. Or when it's like, oh, this is a sorry gift for treating me like shit, or things like that. No shade to people who are like, wait, I just posted something about that, and actually I'm in a good relationship. That's great. I'm just kind of giving examples of when I think about myself back then. And we didn't have social media then. So you could hide a hell of a lot more. So it brings me to my story. So right now I'm 45 years old. I was 17 years old when I met this person. I already knew of this person growing up. He was the kid that always got in trouble, talked back to the teachers, um, uh, steal shit from stores. Nobody messed with him because he'd kick your ass, kind of thing. Um, and all of that sounds, now that I sit here and think about that, it's like, what a shitty fucking person. When I was 17, it was like, I just, I'll speak for myself. So when I'm saying these things, I'm really saying like the true honest of like where I was like, he's just never been loved, or he's never been shown love, right? Or, and what the fuck did I know at 17 about that, right? I mean, when you're 17, though, you know fucking everything. Uh, but thinking that like getting to know him, we went to different schools, but I knew of him in the same city. And we dated for almost 3 years. And after about 4 months into the relationship, it it started small, where he would tell me that he wanted to drive me to school. And then he would drive my car to his school, and then he'd pick me up, because then we could see each other in the morning. We could kind of talk. And then after school, he would pick me up, and we could see each other after, and he'd drive me home, and we'd hang out for a little bit. And it was like, oh, I love that. Um, and then not realizing that, it's a way of controlling. Like, he'll know where I am at all times because he'll have my car, because he doesn't have a car. Wait, I'm being fucking used. Didn't think of any of that. I had a pager at the time. This is back, we had a pager. And he would page me, and I would call him right away, and he'd be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm in school. And he's like, we had payphones, and so I'd go to the payphone and call, and I would try to hide that I was like making a call home all the time. And started small that way, of like suggesting who I should hang out with and who I shouldn't. And um, you know, never was it about how I looked. Never was it about anything about me at the time when it started in those first like 4 or 5 months. But the first time that I saw him get physical with like, or I'm sorry, I will say physical, yeah, because he like punched the wall and broke glasses and things like that. We were playing a game in my room, and I won. And I started kind of like boasting and being like, "Ooh, I kicked your butt. I kicked your ass. I kicked your ass. Oh my God," right? He freaked out. He says he doesn't remember. He started punching holes in the wall, telling me to be quiet and shut my mouth. Punched a few holes in the wall, broke a bunch of stuff in my room. Uh, at this time, I was trying to settle him down. My mother at this point called the police. She she could hear us upstairs. Police came, and at that point, they took him home to settle down. He just needs to settle down, take a breath. This was, I graduated in 94, so this was 94. Yeah, I was a senior in high school. back in 94, when no shade to the law enforcement, but if we just separate them and, you're just young kids, all the emotions, hormones, just drive them home. Just don't call each other for the night. Just stay away from each other, just chill out. That was the time. Uh, when the police showed up, there was blood all over the carpet, and they checked him out, drove him in the squad. There was no blood. Looked at my mother as well as myself, and noticed that I had severed a pretty major tendon in the bottom of my left foot. Was never going to dance again. I used to be in dance classes and was never going to dance again, and was put on crutches and a large boot with some stitches. But if I would have just not shoved it in his face that he won, I would not have stepped on that glass. He didn't cut me. He broke something, and I should have really watched where I was going and not try to settle him down. I should have just let him. I shouldn't have bragged that I won. These are all the things that were going through my head at the time. I know right now you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Those are all things that were going through my head, is that, if I would have shut up, if I wouldn't have, bragged that I won, if I would have just shut my fucking mouth, this wouldn't have happened, right? I stepped on the glass. He didn't even touch me. Yeah, he put those holes in my wall, but he didn't touch me. It becomes that, but I accepted the behavior, right? You don't know that at the time, and we just think it's just a one-off and it won't happen again, because I'll alter how I act and react. So then he'll be fine. He'll be fine. I won't throw it in his face. I won't try to settle him down when he gets frustrated. I'll just, we'll find our way, right? We're in love. We're young. We know everything. Doesn't matter the age that you're at either. You could be my age right now or even older, and be in an environment or relationship that is causing you to question exactly who you are and what you want from life. Don't settle. Don't settle on someone else. If you like your sky pink, yellow clouds, why the fuck do you got a purple sky and pink clouds? Like, it's got to be right for you, and it's got to be a safe environment. And if you're wondering if, like, where someone's at, you don't trust them, like, those are all unsafe environments. And back to the story, I ended up moving in with him. So this was my mother said, you're not allowed to see him. I did not graduate on time. I did go back to night school to get my actual diploma at the high school I went to. I was very proud to go to this Catholic high school. My mother busted her ass to get me to go to this school. And so I wanted my diploma to be from there. And so I remember going back to night school because I missed so many days with being sad, skipping school, lying that I was in school, but I actually was with him, or just being out of school because I always had something wrong with me, because the physical altercations started. It got to be now where I didn't have any friends. Still a senior in high school. My mother said I'm not allowed to see him. I didn't move in with him yet. It was after I was supposed to graduation day in June. It was in August that I moved in with him of 94. We got a place in the basement of my great aunt's, who's 88 years old at the time, 87 years old at the time, who wouldn't have heard anything or seen anything. She lived upstairs. We lived in the basement. The basement had a kitchen and everything. We moved in together. I had one friend still. I had a lot of friends, but one friend that I stayed in contact with. The other ones, he would say are whores or they're sluts or you shouldn't hang out with them. He sees them at parties and they're doing this and they're doing that. I don't want to go into like really long about all this. I really want to get to like the key points of this. But I moved in with him, and so I kept in contact with one of my friends. Her name is Marie. And she is my fucking lifesaver for a moment here. We just need to have a quiet moment. My lifesaver. She was a person that stayed in contact with me that I let stay in contact with me, right? I had a lot of friends who were like, hey, I saw this person at a party. He was doing this. And I was like, he would never do that, right? He loves me and I love him. He would never do that. That defensiveness, that undeniable, like, denial of a lot of these things weren't happening. Him sleeping with other girls, him stealing things from people's houses, things like that. He would tell me that he doesn't remember because he was drunk. He blacked out. He would come home yelling for no reason. I would be sleeping. I'd have to get up to go to work. I remember a time he came in telling me that, this is when we lived together, he saw one of my friends at a party, and she's just a slut and he can't fucking stand her. And I said, well, I've known her my whole life, and I'm too bad. She's someone who's in my life, and I don't want to talk about this right now. I'm really tired and I just want to go to sleep. And pulled the sheets and blankets off the bed and just started pushing me, bumping me with his chest and his shoulder and his head, bumping his head against my head. Not using any hands, right? Didn't touch me that night, did he? He didn't beat me up. He didn't do that. He just pushed me around with his body. If I probably would have gotten out of his way, and if I probably would have just listened, this wouldn't have happened. All these little things that I hear now, or that I hear 10 years after the fact or 20 years after the fact, sounds so much different than when you're in those situations. So I don't want, I don't want to minimize at these large moments, but small pieces that I'm dropping in here. There was many moments, probably, a couple days a week that this happened. I mean, it's only a couple days a week. Those 5 days, those 6 days, those 4 days that were great. Those are great days, right? My upbringing, my father was abusive, verbally and physically abusive. So this is slightly normal for me. It felt not right, but it didn't feel wrong, if that makes sense. It didn't feel like, oh my God, this is so wrong. I should not be living like this. It was more like, this isn't right. Like, is it always going to be like this? Like, it was more of that questioning it. Not knowing, because it's kind of what I knew or watched it happen to my mother, or my siblings. After we lived together, we were together for another year. We lived together for about 10 months, almost a year. It was on like that year part that one of my friends was having a party. At this point, altercations were, I mean, he would come home a few nights a week at this point, and I was hiding the fact that he wasn't coming home. He was out drinking all the time. My mother would say, you look terrible. And I'd be like, oh, I'm just really tired. I'm just working like a couple jobs. And oh my God, we're doing so good. Like, we're saving up, and we weren't saving up. And I don't know where the fuck the money was going. And I was working so many jobs and crying at night. And then I'd hear the door and be scared and sleep with my face facing the door. At this moment, it was a terrible situation. Scared I was going to get punched, pushed. Something was going to happen. He never remembered these things because he would black out, or so he said. The final night happened when I decided that I was going to leave. I told my friend Marie that I have to leave. And one of my friends, Mike, was having a party, and it was a great opportunity for me to leave. We were out of high school at this time, and I mentioned that I was leaving. Once again, making the excuse, I should have not talked back. I shouldn't have told him any of this, right? I blame myself for a lot of years after this. That night, told him that I'd be leaving. And he's like, you're not going anywhere, because, to be honest, he was to be transparent about it, he was like, you're not fucking going anywhere. You're going to fucking stay here, and I'm going out, and you're not going to hang out with, named all the people, because they're fucking losers, and I don't fucking like them, and all they want to do is fuck you, and just kept saying, and I was like, no, they don't. They've been my friends for years. Yeah, they've been your friends because they want to fuck. Like, it was just escalating. And the one friend, my friend Marie, he didn't like, of course, because she's independent and wasn't friends with him, right? Like, everyone else kind of knew of him because we all grew up in the same city. But my friend Marie wasn't friends with him. She was friends with me first. And, that probably didn't sit well. It's not someone he can control. And so I remember saying I was going to go out with Marie, and she was coming over, and he's like, the fuck if she is, you're staying here. And I said, no, I'm not. And he grabbed me by my throat and threw me to the ground, in the bedroom while my feet were still in the kitchen, and he raped me. He doesn't remember that either. I was talking to my older boys. They know this story. And I was talking to my older boys, and I said, I'm not going to use the word sexual assault. Is that going to be bad? Like on YouTube, I use the word rape. I wasn't, and I didn't, and I'm not going to. Sexual assault to me, when you talk about something that's sexual, it can be exciting, it can be dirty, it can be bad, it can be good. Like, there's lots of ways to look at it. Assault. If someone were to say I was assaulted, I would think, like, you could have your purse taken from you. You could be hit upside the head. You could be stabbed. There's, this balance, and it doesn't go degrading enough saying I was sexually assaulted. Rape is vulgar and harsh and disgusting and violating and just fucking absolutely fucking terrible. And I was raped that night. That was the last night. I stood by it. I went to the party. My friend Marie came to the house, hugged me and held me as I cried, showed her what happened. I took a shower, and she took me to the party. She knew I'd be leaving. Told everybody at the party why I looked the way I did. I had marks all over my face and my neck and my arms, and was honest with, it was probably like 8 people there at the party, 7 people at the party. I was 100% honest with the whole relationship. It all came out that night. And they all said that they knew it was going on. They were just waiting. They had some adrenaline that, they were going to protect me, and they're so proud of me, and they're going to get out. And about 3 hours later, my boyfriend at the time and his friends showed up to break into the house because they knew exactly where I was to get me out. I called the police, and I was hiding in the front bedroom. These guys were hunters and went and got their guns and protected their house. They didn't shoot outside of their house. They didn't even shoot any of the guns, but they did get the guns protecting. And outside the house was my boyfriend at the time, like I said, and a few of his friends throwing rocks at the window and bricks and breaking the windows, trying to get in, breaking at the doors. They lived on a pretty busy street in Minneapolis. Police came pretty quickly. They found at the house that we lived in at my great aunt's, my clothes all over the front lawn. They couldn't find him at first to arrest him. Told the police everything that happened in my life with him, as well as being raped. Went to about a month later, was at my house. I have to tell you something. Right after that party, my mother was on a train ride to South Dakota. She was already in South Dakota. I had nowhere to go that I felt safe or that had like authority, like a parent figure there to feel safe, right? I couldn't go home. We lived in a pretty big house in Richfield. And I don't mean big, like we were very poor. There was a lot of fakeness going on when I was growing up to try to seem like we had everything. But we lived in a pretty big house that I felt really unsafe there to be alone. My siblings they're all grown and gone and moved out and had their lives. But I remember saying that I could go stay with my dad until my mom got home. He lived in St. Paul with his girlfriend, and I remember being picked up by him and him asking me why I just didn't keep my mouth shut. You know, if you just kept your mouth shut, shit like this wouldn't happen. You know, it's those really vulnerable moments. Those really vulnerable moments where you can like taste and smell and remember vividly, right? I remember the bumps on the freeway, hitting the car tires and looking out into the dark window outside of downtown St. Paul as we drove through, and he wasn't looking for an answer. You know, he would say like, why would you do that? Why would you just keep pushing someone's buttons? You know, it's one of those things that I learned to just keep my fucking mouth shut. Through him raising me, but also through the relationship I was just in. I stayed there for a couple days. My mother came home early. She found out what happened. Came home early and was going through court at the time and pressing charges on everything I possibly could. This was in 1997. There was a lot of difference from 97 to now in courts and charges and things like that. I remember sitting in the living room with my sister on one side and my mom on the other, and thinking of all the stress I was going through with the court and going into the courts and speaking to the police and his lawyers and my lawyer, and being safe and feeling safe and having to sleep right up against a window, having my bed high enough so I could sleep level with the window on the second floor and face the window and have my window cracked so I could hear cars drive by, and feel safe. Sleep, then turning so that I could see the doorway. Never feeling fully safe in my own skin, in my own house. One day I just felt like my little voice telling me that I haven't had my period. I asked my sister to go get me a pregnancy test, and she came back and took the pregnancy test and I was pregnant. I decided within less than 2 minutes that I was going to have an abortion. My mother made sure that that's something I wanted to do. They called the hospital, found a place I could do it. They had an opening the next day. It said, we have to do it right away. We have to do it right away. I was so scared for my life. I had an abortion and I wouldn't change it. I don't think I would be alive today if I had that child. I wanted to share that story. And you're probably like, well, what happened to him? He spent 3 months in jail. He is newly married. Well, I mean, not newly, like he's married. Last I heard, because I try not to hear, I try not to, I don't want to know. I don't ask for it. But when people, I mean, it's been probably 10 years since I've heard anything. But when there was times that I'd run back into Richfield into people and they'd be like, oh, hey, did you hear about da da da? It's like, why would I hear about that? But, I hid what he did to me for so long. Or people would be like, oh my God, you know that person you dated? He was fucking crazy. He is so fucking crazy. He did this to this person. Or he put someone in a coma, like beating them up so bad. He beat them to unconsciousness. Like, yep, I know. Like, I hid that shit. He is married, or, I mean, this was 10 years ago news. I could be old fucking news by now. Living in the basement of his wife's house with his children that they share, and beats his wife. His dad that he lived with beat his wives. And his brother is divorced because his brother beat his wife. Your story doesn't need to have a pattern. It doesn't need to have the escalating, the de-escalation, the words it had with mine. Yours is going to sound different. Yours is going to look different. Yours is going to sound different. It's going to just be different because we're different. It was time. Something inside me was just unsettling. It turned out to be, this can't be it. This it just can't be like this forever. I have to stop this. And that's where I decided, like I said that night, that I wasn't going to come back. Ooh, I'm like holding all this tension in my neck talking about it. It's been 25 years. And yeah, man, does it still hit me. Watching that series made, him throwing things or hitting the wall or her feeling afraid, made me realize the importance of uncomfortable situations and being true to what is comfortable and what is not. Maybe it's comfortable once and then it's not again. Maybe it's a conversation you can have with someone, but just knowing that this was my story, I wanted to share it so that you're not alone, no matter what level of unsafe you might be at. Whether you're, whether it's a female, causing the domestic violence, or the male. It's not just men who do this. So it's definitely there. Like I said, we saw it on social media with the ex-NFL player. It's in a show on Netflix. It's definitely, in a movie where a woman gets pushed. It's where a man gets shoved to the side. Just know that you have a place to go and listen to people when they tell you their stories, when people are reaching out to you and you may feel that like, oh, what does this person want now? Listen, watch for the sign. You seeing the sign here where the thumb is tucked inside the hand. If you see that in a car, in a parking lot, you see some of those videos where the woman was at like the vet. They brought their dog in, and her boyfriend had like a gun on him, and she wrote a note that she's not safe, and they called the police. And these are only small moments captured, and I don't mean they're small. These are huge moments, but what I'm trying to say is that they're small pieces of time that are captured. These are huge moments that define us. I am definitely broke the cycle of violence in my family with my children. I was not going to allow them to feel scared, unsafe. I wanted them to thrive and be supported and loved and love and be loved. Um, I'm going to leave you with that, everyone's got a story. People post it all the time, right? Like you never know what someone's going through. There's still moments of a little PTSD I hold at times in my life, or like my husband knows that if I see something on TV, or he used to watch like live police shows and I couldn't listen to that. I would have nightmares and I would hear the voice in my head. And, you find ways to adapt. You find ways to put the wall up to not let anybody else in anymore because you feel safer there. And then finding the right people that you can take that wall down, because it's a much better place having that wall down and being loved and supported for who exactly you are. So I want to thank Marie for coming over that night and hugging me and helping me stand on my feet and be amazing. Shout out to Marie. I should give her Instagram handle and her Facebook page so we can all get on her and thank her. But yeah, thank you. And reach out to your friends. And if, like I said, if something's not feeling right, it's not right. Be safe. I'm here for you. You can follow me on Instagram at Dysfunctional Megan. I wanted to share this story, like I said, because life is absolutely fucking amazing. And we don't know how long we have, but what's really fucking important is the time that we do. And for however long we're here, that one little footprint that you're leaving, that legacy, whether it's through your children, through the walls of your home, through pictures, through friendships, through anything, through videos that you make, that is going to make a ripple effect. And it's going to change the fucking world. I know it sounds ridiculous to some of you. Like, oh my God, it's not going to change the world. Don't fucking argue with me. It's going to change the world. The ripple effect. What you're creating now in your life could be these small little baby steps that the next people kind of create and go on and go on. So keep being fucking amazing. Stay safe. Reach out to your friends. I love you, and I'll see you next time.